Hi everyone, it's Josh, and I created this channel because I wanted to have a platform to start exploring some of the things that I've been thinking and feeling recently and really for a number of years about existence and existentialism and psychology and philosophy and basically what is the meaning of life or meanings? What are we doing here on this planet? What makes a good life? How do we self-actualize? What about all the pain in life? What do we do with it? What do we do with the reality of death? And the sort of three other existential concerns that often get mentioned: death, isolation, meaninglessness, and freedom. So I'd kind of like to talk about some of those things, and maybe I'll share some of my own story here about where I've come from on some of these issues. So let me start there. I consider myself an existentialist, and I have for probably a couple of years now. Before that, I think in a lot of ways, maybe in spirit, I agreed with a lot of the tenets or even sort of the realities of existentialism in a way, like the existential concerns, like I mentioned, death and isolation, all these things. I mean, in a way, I saw those, I felt those, I experienced those. But on the other hand, I was a committed Christian for most of my life, from about age 8 on to a couple of years ago, when I think I was 26, when I deconverted, as I like to say. And that was a very difficult time for me. It actually came on the heels of a very difficult time, because really all of my teenage years and a lot more into my college years and beyond, I was very much sort of full of existential angst and uncertainty and really struggling with the questions of existence. And I was struggling, within the confines of Christianity, within the constraints of the belief system that I had, sort of I basically had inherited from my parents and from everyone around me, because, growing up, everyone was a Christian. So I was sort of isolated in a way, to an extent, from, people who thought differently. And as I started expanding my sort of sphere of the sphere of people who influenced me, I suppose, I started realizing that there are a lot of other ideas out there, and some of them make a lot of sense, and they conflict with things that Christianity says. So when I deconverted, it was really kind of like tearing a piece of myself away. And it left a gaping hole where, my sort of life philosophy had been. Because for many years I had sort of carefully built this philosophical framework. I was always refining it and expanding it and trying to make sense of my life within the confines of Christianity, and trying, I guess, to understand what's meaningful, what's my place in the world, what am I supposed to do with my life. You get, in existentialism, there's this concept of thrownness, which is basically like you're sort of thrown into the world with no, there's no manual, there's no guidebook, there's no, you didn't ask to be put here, you're just here, and you're sort of confronted with the realities of existence, and you have to sort of either face up to and brave those realities, or in various self-destructive ways, those realities are denied and hidden, and you try to avoid your life. You try to avoid the reality of death. You try to avoid meaninglessness by seeking pleasure or meaning substitutes. As this guy Eric Maisel, a psychologist, he often talks about this idea of meaning substitutes, like watching TV and experiencing someone in love may be a meaning substitute for your own sort of lack of pursuit of an intimate relationship that you deeply want, but for whatever reason you're avoiding that part of your life, which coincidentally is something that I actually did for many years. I've sort of awakened to the idea that love and intimacy and connection with other people is extremely important to me, but that took a long time to kind of come to terms with. And also, I guess there's this, I'm sort of rambling, but in existentialism and in just sort of in a lot of strains of thought, there is the idea that we have, well, freedom and responsibility, and the idea is that we have to choose our way. We have to choose what values we're going to act on, what kind of person we're going to be. And so the whole concept of values comes into play, and I've kind of come across this in a variety of contexts. One of them is a form of psychotherapy called acceptance and commitment therapy, which deals a lot with values. Values are like the basis of how they talk about how you find meaning and fulfillment in life. You identify, you sort of create / identify / discover your values, and values being like very sort of abstract concepts like connection, creativity, belonging, caring about other people, caring for the environment. There's sort of like big concepts that usually can be summed up in one or two words, that kind of carry this sense of a quality of being that you want to embody. So I think a lot about in terms of values, and in terms of values and finding meaning and fulfillment in life. There seems to be, in psychology, there seems to be a consensus that values are extremely important to finding fulfillment in life, and that the more that we can fulfill our values, the more I guess our lives will be meaningful and rich, and that kind of brings up the idea of the pursuit of happiness. A lot of people seem to, we all want to be happy. We all want to feel good all the time, or at least be able to control when we feel good and when we don't. Some of us, like me, we sometimes like to feel sad, or angry, or we sometimes like those things, want to express those things, but only when we want to. And the reality is that that's never fully under our control. We can't control the way that we feel moment to moment. It happens to us. Emotions happen to us, and we can choose how we react to those things. We can choose behaviors, but the psychological experiences that we have are mostly not chosen. So the idea is that happiness is sure something we'd like to be able to have on demand, but what really might be more important is leading a valued life, leading a life that's meaningful, that's fulfilling, that's purposeful, and that really calls on us to summon our courage and confront the realities of existence, and to really create ourselves the way that we want to be. So that's kind of in a nutshell what this channel is about. It's about exploring some of these ideas, some of the reading that I've done in psychology and philosophy, and there's a lot of, in the arts, there's a lot of crossover between those disciplines and, or creative pursuits, whatever, those areas of human creativity, I guess. And so I just wanted to explore those with you. I'm really interested in what other people have to say about these kinds of things. I would love it if people, asked questions, made response videos. I'd love to interact with people. That's a lot of the reason that I'm doing this, is because I would like to interact with people on these issues, because these are things I think are very important to all of us and to humanity as a whole. And if we care about living a life that is meaningful and rich and vital, then we have to care about understanding life to some extent, understanding the place that we've been put, the sort of situation we find ourselves in, and how do we manage that? How do we thrive in that situation? Given the human condition, how do we then thrive on the human condition? So anyway, that was kind of my introduction. I plan on making other videos as I feel led. I'm still kind of working out, what I want this channel to be, what the name of it should be, all kinds of things. I feel like the name is not quite what I want it to be, but it does kind of get at the fact that the idea is to face existence with courage and with full honesty and awareness of what's going on, and to create the kind of life that we want to. So anyway, until next time, peace out. I'm Josh. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to talk about. I would love to do that. So catch you later.